Golden Law Monday coming up in about 25 seconds here. Buddy Martin with you tonight. We'll have the quarterback himself, Shane Matthews, who was on the call Saturday to talk about the play. We all know what it was, the interception. We'll talk a little bit about what happened and why and where they go from here. And we're going to ask you to check in as a fan. Where are you right now? Because some of you are doing this a little bit, but hey, this is what fans do. Then, of course, we'll have the Iron Duke tonight. That's when he shines. He'll be along. We'll have a little discussion about where we go from here. So stay tuned. It's Golden Law Monday. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air. Tell your friends and neighbors. Come on over.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the Buddy Martin Show. It's a Monday. It's the Monday after the first defeat. Some of you are very upset. I understand why. We're going to try to talk you off the ledge, but we're not going to try to tell you what to think. That's up to you. You're the fans. But come talk to me. It's going to be okay. All right? Don't confuse disappointment with disaster. Let me say it again. Don't confuse disappointment with disaster. How many of you are disappointed? I'll raise my hand, and all you can raise yours. How many thought it was a disaster? Not really. And I can talk to you about that. We can reason one side or the other, but, what did we learn? Well, the Gators had a chance to put one away and didn't do it, all right? Like Billy Napier said today, you never get that one back. It's not like practice where you can do a redo. You lost the game, all right? So it's especially disappointing that win was right there for the taking. It was there, like low-hanging fruit, and things didn't go exactly like they could have gone, at least for Florida. That makes it especially disappointing. And then the young quarterback prodigy took a bitter pill, and the question now is, how will he handle it? Well, I got a little insight for you on what happened after that. We'll talk about it. I can't predict. I can't read tea leaves, but maybe there's some good signs. And where do you go from here? Every quarterback has had that kind of game where you throw the ball to the wrong jersey and it goes 65 yards. And we'll talk about that. I'm not going to try to placate it or make up excuses or sugarcoat it. Billy Napier said, let's go for the truth. And the truth is, as Anthony said, I had a terrible game. So we'll go from there. We'll talk about an upcoming game this weekend with USF, discuss that, and tell you a couple of positive things that I saw happen, heard about happening after the game. We'll hear, of course, from the QB himself talking about the route, the interception, what happened, why it happened that way, the occasions. And then Franz Beard has an interesting story and column. He was at the press conference about what does Billy Napier mean when he said you have to earn the win. We think we know, but how do you earn the win? All good questions. And then the final thing is, what's the trajectory? Where do they go from here? How high can they go? What are your expectations? All that will be discussed tonight. As I say, good evening to all you folks checking in. Good to see you. I know we got a Broncos and Seahawks game on right now, and the Rays, I guess we're up 2-1 when I looked last time. So we'll say good evening to Dan Bond out in Dallas. Dan, good to hear from you out there in Dallas. Joey Vaughn, evening to you. Perry Mason, that's his name. Howard Lovering from the Pipeline. Howard, good to hear from you. Andy McIntosh. Queenie Quanda Arnold, always checking in. Thank you, Queenie, for checking in. Appreciate it. David Baldoff, his traditional dilly-dilly. He's a GNK member. We'll tell you about that sometime. Brent English, another original. Dilly Dilly, good evening. And G&K, people invoking the Gator Nation Kingdom. For those you don't know, we'll educate you on that, what that means. Perry Mason says he's pulling for the Gators. That's where he is. Chris Combs, what's up to you, buddy? Becky Smith Carlisle, boy, she's usually getting early. David Hunter, and all kinds of weather. This ain't the kind of Kentucky of old. Hats off to Mark Stoops. Yeah, we'll get into that. Carlos Salmon, Carlos, I haven't heard from you in a long time. Jesse Calderon, back again. Good to hear from you. Nikki Moe, and on again for other comments from you guys. Okay, Scott Sloan, Andy McIntosh, James Long, Michael Abelsmith, and anyway, thanks for checking in, folks. Appreciate it. Let's do this. Let's go hear from Meldon Law. A good thing that the Meldon Law people are doing is meaningful, and then we'll hope to have the quarterback on when we come back. Shane Matthews talking about, again, don't confuse disappointment with disaster. We'll look for you to weigh in online here with the messages, and we'll try to respond to as many of them as we can right here on the Meldon Law Monday, the Buddy Martin Show.
A breaking story, okay?
All right.
So this year, my wife Patricia and I are chair people for the Alzheimer's Association. And Meldon Law was founded in 1971. So for every free throw made this year by both the men's basketball team and women's basketball team, Meldon Law is donating $19.71 to the Alzheimer's Foundation.
Nice. What's the 1971? When you started the law firm?
Yes.
Very good. That's a great story and a great idea. And it couldn't be for a better cause, because we know how devastating that disease is to a lot of people and families. Congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Meldon Law, he does a lot of nice things. Where you matter most.
I know. Hey, buddy, we're just trying to keep our own minds straight, right?
That's the truth. I might need your help, so I'll give you a call. Thanks, Jeffrey. Jeffrey Meldon, Meldon Law, where you matter most, the official injury law firm of the University of Florida Gators. And saw Jeffrey at the game at halftime and visited with him just a little bit. He's enjoying the game. And also Shane Matthews at halftime. We talked a little bit about what we saw. So we're going to try, and I hate to use the term break it down, but try to examine what happened. And, there was a lot of momentum. I rewatched the tape today of the game. And a lot of momentum going to Florida's way. It was there for the taking when the ball was kicked in the end zone by the punter after the snap over his head. And Florida went up on another safety. It looked like it was Florida's game to take, and then we know what happened. The couple of interceptions. The one that was costly was the pick six. Let's go to the green room, by the way, soon to be the orange and blue room, but sponsored by the same people. Our good friends at Main Street Community Bank of Ocala, independent, FDIC insured, locally operated, full-service bank, offering a broad range of financial services. Main Street Community Bank, community is a middle name, sponsor of the green room, where tonight we find the guy who was on the call on Monday night, saw him at halftime. That would be Shane Matthews. Evening to you, Shane.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. I'm trying to sort things out, and I got to a point where I thought I'm going to have Shane explain this route to me. What happens when the cornerback squats down. It looked like the perfect throw to the wrong guy in the wrong jersey. But anyway, your overall thoughts about the game. I didn't get to hear your show this morning about the game and where they came from. But as I said coming on, disappointing but not disastrous. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're the team everybody anticipated before the season started. Kentucky played a lot of zone. I'd say 99% of the game they played zone, a too high shell. We're going to let anything get behind them. Keep everything in front. Pretty much every time we ran a zone read, they forced him to hand the ball off. And sometimes they rush 3, drop 8 into coverage, which clogs up passing lanes, things of that nature. I thought it was a tremendous plan by Bob Stoops. Mark Stoops.
There you go.
Some guy named Mark Stoops who's the all-time coach now at Kentucky.
Yeah, over Bear Bryant. Yeah.
So he had a really good plan, and they got some excellent outside linebackers for Kentucky. Look, it's one of those games. We didn't play well. We had our opportunities. Kentucky, I guess they made some adjustments at halftime. I don't know, but the first half, I thought Kentucky offensive line, especially the right side of their offensive line, might be the worst I've seen in SEC in my lifetime. The missed assignments that they did, they just let guys run free, and you can't do that. But look, they'll learn from this. Billy, he said this team will stick together. They'll go out. They're going to clobber at USF. USF is not very good, and just got to get ready to go compete up at Tennessee.
Tennessee had all that they could take from Pitt, and were lucky to win that game. So Shane, we're going to hear a bite here in a minute from Billy Napier, and he was asked, did he hear what Anthony said? But you've been saying all along to pump the brakes on Anthony. He's a good-looking quarterback, but he's not polished, and we saw that. He was nervous. When you get nervous, you speed things up, right? Like your putt, you speed it up. And he made a lot of quick throws. The one he made was intercepted by Smith and returned pick six. That was so quick. Explain to me what happened. I believe it was Naquan who ran the route. And what was he running? Was he running a deep route? What was he running? Was he running out?
Yeah, I was told by multiple players.
He didn't adjust.
No. Anthony thought it was a different play. Naquan was correct. He thought Naquan was supposed to run a hitch. However, against that coverage, you would never throw a hitch. So it was almost like he just made up his mind. He was going to sling it out there no matter what.
Yeah.
It happens. It happened, and hopefully he'll learn from it.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Couple things. I'll promise never to make excuses for anybody. But I will say this. After the game, he showed up in the interview room, all right? Which in today's world, that's something sometimes that might not happen. A lot of athletes will duck the media. And after a bad game, a lot of them do. You never did, but the fact is there are people who just won't own up to it. He showed up. He answered the questions. He said, I played terrible. He felt terrible. He let himself down, his teammates down. He manned up there. Then a little anecdote, which I believe Scott Carter filed. Maybe you knew about this, maybe you didn't. On the way out of the stadium, there were some kids throwing the ball around. And he stopped and actually played catch with them a little bit on the way out, which was, I thought, really cool that he did that, handled it well. So I think those are two positive signs. However, let me say this, and I'll let you go take it from here. You want to be careful here because the guy can regress. That kind of game can take a young quarterback's confidence. He said my confidence was gone. It's stripped me like that. That confidence thing can go, not just to young quarterbacks. I've seen golfers who couldn't hit anything but a shank, who were U.S. Open Masters winners at one time. And it does happen. You know that as a confidence. The question is, how will that confidence be for him? And I'm going to let you play a bite from Billy here as soon as you comment on that and give me your thoughts.
Well, I don't really know the answer to that. Look, he didn't play great. There's a lot of players on our team that didn't play great. Quarterback gets way too much credit, gets way too much blame. He's going to have bad games. He's going to throw more interceptions. It's part of the position. But the confidence thing is somewhat of a concern. I don't know if I've ever heard someone talk about it like that. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It's kind of like when guys have trouble shooting the basketball, they need to lay up or free throw.
Free throw, can't make it, yeah.
See a ball go through the hoop or whatever. So once he completes a couple of balls Saturday, he'll be fine.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we come back from this. I want you to explain to me why there weren't other. I looking at the play calling in the rewatch. Some of the play calling in the third period, in the fourth period. Curious to me why there weren't more easy throws. That 9, the first time I saw anybody drop 9 was Auburn. Florida lost, got clobbered up there, and your old coach John Reeves threw for 9 interceptions.
Well, I will tell you, in 1991, Notre Dame dropped 10 into coverage sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the series. Look, people complain on all the shows I've been on today. They talked about our offensive game plan. I had no problem with it. If we complete those balls when those guys were open, nobody's complaining.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I do want to be honest here, and we'll come back. Let's hear from Billy, what he said about it, what's going to happen now, and his take on Anthony. Here's what he had to say.
That's a tough question to answer there. I think a lot of Anthony's issues he can fix, right? And I would say that most football games are that way to some degree. You know, occasionally you're going to run into a really good player in a matchup. You're going to have a matchup issue, one side of the ball, the other on special teams. But most games are lost. That's reality. You know, so I think the big thing here is there's lots of plays where he can do better, and there's lots of plays where a lot of players on our team can do better, right? I mean, I think Anthony is the quarterback, right? So everybody likes to talk about the quarterback, but every player on the team can do better, right? There's certain players that play better than others, and they know who they are. But I think that what I see is all very correctable. Now, there are a handful of plays, 4 or 5 plays in the game where we didn't put the players in a sound concept, right? And that when I come back in and I'm evaluating the staff, that's what I'm looking at, right? Are we in a sound play? When we walk in the room today, do we have the answer? We could say, hey, if we'd have done this, we'd have been fine, right? And, you know, too many of those in the game for me. 4 or 5, that's too many. I don't want any of those, right? So, but I do think that there's opportunity for Anthony to play well in the game, you know, if he executes at a higher rate. Some of that has to do with other players around him playing better. And I think that's usually the case. When he plays good, it's probably has to do with the players around him playing well too.
All right, there's his comments, Shane, and I can go back a ways to any quarterbacks you want to talk about from the '60s on, ones that had bad mistakes. My gosh, as great a player as you were, you had one of those famous interceptions, ever, and yet it wasn't totally your fault. The receiver didn't run the right route.
Yeah, but I shouldn't have. You know, buddy, in all the interceptions I threw in my career, that's the only pick 6 I ever threw.
Really? No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that it was almost he couldn't have thrown if he was throwing the ball as a route, he couldn't have thrown it better, right in the hands of Smith, who, by the way, is a Palm Beach guy, just so you know. All right, so there you have it. Your thoughts?
I agree with everything Billy said. There's 4 or 5. Usually, there's 4 or 5 plays, maybe a few more that aren't great plays. You just hope they don't turn into disastrous plays. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you can't call a perfect game. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, everybody's got to play better. Anthony will play better next week. He'll learn from this. But here's what I did say, buddy. I said this in the summertime. If we have to throw the ball 30 times or more,
yeah, you did. Yep.
We're losing or going to lose the game.
Yeah, you threw it 34, right?
How many times did he throw it?
34.
Yeah, that's way too many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point. Here's a question from Andy McIntosh. You see it on the screen. HPC said today you were the only starting quarterback he never pulled. He even pulled Danny. I was there when he pulled Danny. Yeah, I know that. So, you and Steve were simpatico on the same page. Most of the time, you did what the coach wanted you to do, or did it better than he could have done and called it. So there you have a couple of things. And again, you're going to my description was on our Sunday morning Orange and Blue Blood show. When Troop was as an athlete, and I did play at a low level, but I played, and I was a pitcher. And some days you can't get you can't throw strikes. Some days your curveball doesn't break. Some days you can't get it across the plate. It happens to every athlete. You just hope it doesn't happen in a key situation, but certainly it does. So we saw that happen. We saw what happened. Now let me get to the fabric of the game, and I don't want you folks to think I'm blaming it on the officials, because I'm not. They lost that game. And Billy said, look, we were fortunate to have a chance to still win it after we played and made the mistakes, and they did. It was there for the taking a couple of times. But I thought on the touchdown pass, the first one, that key 50-50 ball, Kendra made a pretty good play. And looking at the play, I question whether that was a catch. But, they said it was, and there wasn't enough evidence to overturn it. But that ball did hit the ground. But I said, this is going to go one way or the other, and it went for them because it was called a catch. Had it been called not a catch, they'd done the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was close. For some reason, I thought his forearm was between the ground and the ball. Maybe not, but I will say this. It was a hell of a throw, a hell of a catch.
It was.
And a hell of a defensive play.
It was, and the result was not in the favor of Florida, so you go.
Right.
So now the other thing is it looked like to me the game was going to be won, and early on. By the way, when the long snapper snapped the ball in the end zone, and the ball went over the head of the punter, and they kicked it out of the end zone for a safety. I said, Florida's got this game. What was it, 16-7, whatever it was. I thought they got this game. Now they got to close it. Well, really good teams need to close. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Because of the mistake he made throwing the pick six, Florida wasn't good enough to overcome that. There were opportunities. And in that late, from 8 minutes on, I marked it down, whatever, there were times there were plays that were called, and every coach makes them. I thought it was way conservative. They thought could they run the ball. They didn't run the ball. They put themselves in a lot of, 3rd and 6 and whatever. I would like to see him throwing the ball a little more on first down, but I guess maybe because he wasn't throwing the ball well. Why didn't he call a few tight end drag routes and, a few simple passes for Anthony? To be able to get some completions. I didn't see any of that. It didn't seem like there was a lot of options. He was either going to hit the ball with the middle of the deep ball or he's going to throw the out route and bail. I don't know. Looks to me like you could build in some easier catches when your quarterback is struggling, and he did try a couple. What's your thought about that?
Well, the ones that we missed were easy throws, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You had a couple like little easy slants, little hitch routes on the inside slot guy to Pearsall that he would zing real high and hard. And as a play caller, I will just tell you this. When your guy's struggling and the best thing you do is run the football, it's hard to call pass plays because you don't want to be 2nd and 10, 2nd and 12. You'd rather be 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7. So, look, Kentucky special teams gave us some hope too because they missed an extra point.
Oh boy, did they ever? Yeah.
The punter snapped over his head, and they missed a chip shot field goal. So you can look at all kinds of ways in this game. The bottom line is, to win games, we are going to have to rush the football, and I still believe Anthony has to have 10 to 12 carries. Now, whether that gets to the point where people are playing the zone read, Anthony, forget your read, fake it, ride the tailback and pull it and try to outrun them or run them over if that's what he has to do to get the ball in his hands. That's just my opinion. I didn't have a problem with the way they called the game because I feel like if we complete those passes, nobody's talking about anything else.
Yeah. Do you think there were enough designed call runs for Anthony? What did he carry, 6 times?
I think they called 2 quarterback draws. One, he was very quick on it.
Fumbled ball one time.
And he ran into the back of his own lineman because he didn't give him time to set to let the guys get up the field. But that happens a lot whenever you're a really good runner. Even if you're not a real good runner, you don't let the play develop. You're in such a hurry to run. So, I agree with everything Coach Napier said. Everybody's got to play better, not just the quarterback.
Yeah, comment here about somebody called themselves unknown user. Just put your name. Make up a name. Come on, please. Don't be the unknown user. You won't get on here. Discuss AR not setting his feet. I don't know that I saw a lot of that. Did you?
No, in the pocket he sets his feet.
Yeah.
When you're rolling out, you can't set your feet.
Right. That's exactly right. That's why I don't think that's valid. And then I want to discuss one more thing about one of the calls. There was a call on a personal foul against Florida when Tradine tackled Levis.
No, they call roughing the passer.
Yeah, but yeah, right. Well, I mean, roughing the passer, but there was a low tackle.
Yeah.
Wasn't like he hit him late in the head, and that's apparently a new rule they're enforcing. I didn't get that. I thought, how can you be tackling a guy? It wasn't a cheap shot. He got him down. That was a key play, huge key play.
Well, it was only 3-yard penalty. It was a 3-yard.
Yeah, but they gave him a first down.
Yeah, but I think that was second down, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'd look it up.
But I didn't like the call either because he was outside the pocket. I'd have no problem with the call in the pocket. A lot of the roughing passer plays are ridiculous in my opinion anyway. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that play. I mean, maybe it has a different outcome. I don't know. But for 3 yards, I didn't think it mattered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I didn't like the call, and the rules analyst also said he didn't like the call. Matt Austin said it was the wrong call. Anyway, again, that calls didn't cost Florida the game. Florida cost itself the game. I'm just trying to go over every fine point and say that that happens so fast. Did you hear Tessitore's call on it? He went nuts on the interception.
I'm not watching the TV.
I know, but you thought you watched the replay. I watched the replay.
I don't really watch the replay.
Yeah, well, I do, but because I don't know as much football as you do. But anyway, his call was, "Oh my, Kedron Smith cuts inside. He's going to pick six in the swamp. Cat scratch fever Smith." Whatever that is, I think he called a good game, by the way. And finally, McElroy said, Kedron Smith had the easiest interception of his life. And so he did. Okay, so there we are. A few little items. Again, we can pick it apart forever. I did think the play calling got some. I just didn't see the HBC making some of those run calls. I know he was trying to protect Anthony, but
well, you got to remember, we're not going to call a bunch of pass plays. Well, we did. We called more than I wanted to call, and I love to throw the football. Mm-hmm. But again, it's Billy Napier's job to try to win the game, and when you miss that many throws, it's hard to call plays.
No doubt.
Still in the game.
Yeah, I get it.
Still in the game.
Yeah, you're right, and I get it. I'm just giving an impression from my side how it looked to me. I'm not as skilled at it as you are, but my naked eye, that's what it told me, and how it felt at the time. Well, this looks like.
But buddy, let's use your analogy, baseball. When you were struggling throwing strikes, they took you out of the damn game, didn't they?
No, let me get embarrassed.
You just kept walking them.
Of course I could. Yeah. I get it. Again, I love Billy. I love look. If anything, I think people are being too critical. But that's this. I thought his comments were spot on.
Here's what I talked about today. Mm-hmm. And it's great that we beat the Utah Utes. Don't get me wrong here, but it's almost it fooled the Gator Nation a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, fool's goal. It was fool's goal that way. Yeah.
I mean, we have a chance to win some games, but I still think we're right around that 7 or 8 win team.
So you think you still? I think they're out on schedule because I thought. We talked about this. If they could win 2 of the first 4, and if they win 3 of the first 4, they really got it going. And, of course, people said, which one would you rather win, Utah or Kentucky? Everybody said Kentucky. Yeah. I said Utah because it was the first game. And it was set the tone for the year. But anyway, you can almost swap those out. You know what I mean?
I'd trade them right. I'd trade that win right now.
Yeah, I know you would. I know.
And then I'd trade it, and then here's what I would do, buddy. I would trade that win over Kentucky for a loss to Utah, a loss to South Florida, and a loss to Eastern Washington if we can beat Tennessee.
Yeah, there you go. It's going to be interesting.
We'd be 2-0 in the SEC.
Yeah, so for sure. Okay, where do we go from here? Shane, we're going to wrap it up here. We'll talk again on your show in the morning. Where do we go from here? Billy did say there were 4 or 5 times that his coaching staff didn't have players in the right position, and he said
that happens a lot.
Yeah, of course. It's not like he just is telling you how it was. And he said, one of those is too many for me. I don't want any. But there were 4 or 5 times. So he owned up it. He took his part in the coaching. His staff will have to take their part. The players had to play. A couple of guys had really big games. I thought Germon had a really good game. I thought the defense played well, Shane. I thought they played well. They jumped up and made stops when they had to. I thought, they had a few. I just thought they're getting better, in my opinion. Your thoughts?
Well, I thought they did play well in the first half, but then Kentucky ran it right down our throat in the second half. We will make a decision if our defense is getting better when they go to Tennessee, because that offense is legit. Doring told me, because he watches all the 20 all 22 tapes of all these teams. He thinks Tennessee has the best receiving core in America. Not in the SEC, but in all of America. So I'm doing what coaches tell you not to do, looking ahead, because you got South Florida this week. But I'm anxious to see how we match up with the Vols.
Hendon Hooker's going to be an all-day job, without about it. He's certainly a heck of a quarterback, and but they played against a heck of a quarterback, supposedly. And I wasn't all that impressed with Levis. I'm sorry. He's good, but he's not great, in my opinion.
Who?
Levis. Yeah.
Well, Levis, I will say this, too. He is one tough dude that is talented, but that Kentucky team is going to lose 3 or 4 games. I just don't think they're very good at all.
Well, look, everything pretty much went Florida's way on the 50-50 balls and the nuances against Utah. A lot didn't go their way against Kentucky. That's just football. And they didn't play as well as they could have and should have, and so there you go. One thing we know, Travis Etienne is going to get a lot of handoffs this year. Trevor.
He's a good player. Him and Montreal, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah. And all right, Shane, besides me, who's on the program in the morning?
I'm just going to go with you, buddy.
It's too much pressure.
Yes, but something came up.
Well, I'll carry you again.
You'll carry the show. We'll have plenty of Facebook Lives and plenty of text line.
Yeah. Crazy weekend in sports. Boy, oh boy, how'd you like to live in some of those places like Lincoln and South Bend and College Station, Shane? What do you think you're talking about today?
Well, let me tell you something. I don't know what they're going to do at Texas A&M, but let me read you this here, buddy.
All right.
You talking about total domination? The score didn't indicate it, but statistically, Appalachian State ran 82 plays in the game. Texas A&M only had 38 offensive plays.
Well, that's an amazing stat.
In the entire game.
I heard Jimbo's presser today talking about it. He actually did.
What did he say? We got to coach better. We got to play better. We got to coach.
He said, "I thought we were sound in what our plan was." He said our defense played really well. Our offense didn't play as well.
They only scored 1 offensive touchdown. They ran a kickoff back.
Yeah, right. So anyway, he was he owned up to it, but you could tell he was hurting, man, really hurting. And excuse me, they were the greatest recruiting class in the history of football. Now, granted, they're not playing yet, but
I'm curious how many of those kids are playing.
A good question. Maybe Franz Beard will know. He's up next. So, Shaner, I didn't get a chance to hear your whole broadcast. I hear good reports what people are saying about you. So keep it up, man. I'll be listening to you at Tennessee because I won't be there. So. Yeah,
Sean's good, man. Makes my job easy.
Well, you sound pretty good too. You're getting a little polished on me, bro. So keep it up.
I don't know about that. Okay. We have a good time up there for sure.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way, to Chris Doring, who called the shot. I jumped on him about picking Kentucky.
Hang on a second. No. Doring retracted. He said that Florida was going to beat Kentucky.
He did?
I'm pretty sure I saw that on SEC Now or whatever that show.
Okay.
SEC. Ask him next time he's on the show.
Yeah. By the way, for the folks who don't know what he's talking about, Andy McIntyre says, buddies, Orange and Blue Bloods need to keep the faith. Gator's not going to go 12-0. And by the way, that pledge goes like this, Shane. As you know, you took it. You are an Orange and Blue Blood.
I am.
And it goes like, I believe in the boys and girls from old Florida in all kinds of weather. That's a key phrase, and I won't back down. Good time to repeat that for you folks out there. Shane, thank you. Good job as usual, buddy.
All right, buddy. We'll see you more.
Appreciate
Take care.
it. All right, the great Shane Matthews. We'll talk to him tomorrow morning on the program, and we'll get more takes from him. And right now, it's time before I bring him on board. I'm going to tell you about my tower here. It's going really good, man. I got some good looking green stuff. This will make Franz really hungry when he joins the program. That's my tower right there. It's indoors, and since this picture is a lot more green stuff, it is really good. And I hear that they're doing some deals now. You can buy these things a little cheaper. I know it's $50 off, and I don't know all the details, but you can buy them over a period of time, or you can buy the whole thing at once, and then it kind of just grows itself. You keep putting water in there, and it keeps growing. So if you get one of those, you can eat healthy, farm to the table. I consider myself a farmer, and you can make a lot of different dishes like this right here. I got my stuff in the fridge, and that's what I put. It's a Green Wise burger on top of the beautiful greens and salad. So eat healthy. Go to buddytowers.com. Find out how you can become a farmer just like me. Speaking of a farmer, this guy's really not one. He was always a city boy. But anyway, let's bring him aboard. He worked hard over the weekend, write some good articles. That would be the Iron Duke himself, Franz Beard. Evening, Franz.
Good evening. Welcome to my world.
You have quite a world, Francis. When I last saw you, I was walking out at about 12:30, and I just finished writing something, and you were hacking away over there at 12:30. Wrote a good piece on talk about what you wrote.
Well, everybody wants to point a finger at Anthony, and Anthony owned up to his mistakes, but I'll give you the perfect example. That first touchdown. If you watch the replay of that first touchdown, now the guy, their receiver, goes up and brings the ball down. Now it did touch the ground. Even the announcer said it did touch the ground.
Yeah.
Now the officials in Birmingham said they couldn't tell if the ball moved or not. I thought it did. You thought it did. Most people, I think, thought it did. But whatever, they called it a touchdown. But here's the thing that should be worrisome. There was a safety that should have had over-the-top responsibility. If you watch the replay, the safety's 12 yards behind the play, running behind it. If you got the guy bracketed like you should, they only ran a two-man route. That was only a two-man route. They had max protect two-man route, and their guy, Levis, heaves it up there, a high jump ball situation, and where was our safety? Take that away, okay? Let's just say that's 7 points, okay? Now, second touchdown. We have the phantom roughing the passer, and it was a phantom call. Levis is trying to run, so Trey Dean tackles him below the waist. Can't tackle the quarterback below the waist if he's standing in the pocket trying to deliver the ball. But Levis was on the run. He was outside the tackle box. He gets tackled. Football play. Now, people can say what they want, but okay, it's 3rd and 6. Could have been just held to a field goal. Now, before that, everybody talks about the interception. And here's where I get on Anthony about the interception, okay? He had a wide enough for a train to pass through alley. He's rolling to his right. The linebacker is going with him to keep him contained and keep him from getting to the outside. They pretty much had the receiver covered. But here's the thing. Anthony could have run. Now, he would have only gotten about 5 or 6 yards, unless, he does something that Anthony can do, which is maybe he gets makes a move and boom, he gets 25 or 30 yards, but you can't anticipate that. You can anticipate the 5 or 6 yards because that was there. Now I understand what he was trying to do. Florida's up 16-7. He wants to get a bigger play. If he completes the ball, if he gets the ball over the linebacker to Montrell's hands, they probably make 20 or 25 yards out of that play. Probably. But you just the same, he had the sure thing was the first down. And you know something? It's the part that he's going to have to learn. Sometimes you got to take the sure thing. And that was one of those times when you really needed to take the sure thing. And I think that play, more than any other, affected his confidence running the football. I think from that play on, he was kind of, oh my gosh, I've got to make big plays. And he just totally forgot about getting those 4 and 5 yard plays. We talked about this in the press box, that sometimes you got to take 4 and 5 sure yards instead of maybe taking a chance of trying to fit the ball in a small window. In the second half, Kentucky adjusted. They dropped 7 most plays. They hid their coverage very, very well. They stacked the box with 8. They were dropping 7. So it's a learning experience for him. On the second interception, I've heard it said that Naquan wasn't expecting the ball at all and shouldn't have gotten it. I've also noticed that Naquan...
Well, he didn't have to worry about that. He didn't get it. It wasn't anywhere close. He threw it to the wrong guy.
Billy admitted that there was miscommunication on the play.
Shane talked about that,
Now, whether that was on the part of Naquan, whether it was on the part of Anthony, or whether it was on the part of the coaches who called the play, the coach who called the play in, which is Napier, there was miscommunication, just the same. So they score a pick 6. You take the first interception, maybe with the right call down at there, we hold him to a field goal. But just the same, if he runs the ball, then there's no interception. All right, let's keep going here. So over the top safety, run the ball. Second one, miscommunication. Right there, that's 20 points because they did miss an extra point. And then you take away that gimme field goal there at the end. That's 23 points.
And he missed one, by the way, prior to that.
Yeah.
So.
That's 23 points, buddy.
Yeah.
Florida could have won that game and should have won that game ugly. And Billy knows it. That's why he said today, there are no redos. He knows they should have won the game.
Right.
But that's the part about this team that we're going to have to live with, and that is the idea of growing pains.
Right.
They're going to have some. They're going to have some growing
None
pains.
about it. And I wanted to ask you about your question, which was a good one, about what do you mean by earn the win. And he explained to you, I have the bite here somewhere, about how you earn the win. And why don't you talk about that question?
Well, Saturday night, he said, we did not earn the right to win this game. And so I wanted him to go into further depth on that today. So I asked a question. I said, I personally, I thought it was a very cool statement to make. We didn't earn the right to win. I never heard it put like that. I've heard people say that we didn't play well enough to win, we should have won, all these other things. I never heard anybody say before, we didn't earn the right to win. By right to win, he means that you've got your offense, your defense, and your special teams. You got everybody in sync, playing together as one, overcoming each other's mistakes, etc. And that did not happen in this ball game. The defense had its moments when it picked things up, but in the second half, they got run on. The offense gave things away. The defense gave away the touchdown in the first half when the safety doesn't cover. The offense gave 2 touchdowns away. So you look at that, and they did not play complementary football when everybody was on the same page. Rough day for Anthony Richardson. And I thought Billy did a good job today of kind of explaining that, The guy's young. This is only his third start. All three starts against ranked teams.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. Now, I'd hate to, I guess weekly I'm expected now to say something that is uncomplimentary about the previous head coach. But you watch what Anthony's doing, and you wonder, why wasn't he better coached? He's been here for 2 seasons, the 2 previous years. You look at some of the things he's doing, and they should have been coached out of him by now. The indecision that's out there. We can chalk that up to inexperience in the game, but something. What happens in the game is a direct reflection of what you're taught on the field in practice, and it calls into question how much real coaching he got the previous 2 years.
Yep.
Now, maybe Dan coached him up. Maybe Dan just coached and coached and coached, and what we've got is what we've got. But I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay, so, and we're going to do this and go to switch to the national story, too, because there were so huge things happening in town, what's going on. Later on in the press conferences, Justin Shorter talked about Anthony and in terms of his, and you may have heard about this, maybe you didn't. Among the things he did was he showed up. Of course, that was a big deal to show up in down in the interview room. And secondly, on the way out of the game, according to Bob Redmond, I believe wrote it, Anthony stopped. A bunch of kids were playing catch with a parent. He stopped and threw the ball with them on the way out of the stadium. That's pretty cool for a guy who's been through one of the worst nights of his life to do that. He was humble when he was good, and he was humble when he was bad. No, he's not perfect, and we have seen a lot of great quarterbacks bite the dust. I've seen them all that you remember, and then some bite the dust. And I won't even go back to Auburn when John Reese threw 9 interceptions. I was there that day when it happened. We've seen Danny Werfel. We've seen Jesse Palmer. And no, they all have. Shane Matthews had the most famous interception of all time. But this is not going to. This could go either way. He could go crash and burn and never recover, but he's not going to do that. And I think Billy's done a really good job of coaching him out of this, and he'll live to fight again another day. So I haven't changed any of my thoughts about Anthony Richardson. I still say he's the most impressive young talent I've ever seen at this age, better than when I saw Cam Newton. How will he turn out? I don't know, but I think he's about where he ought to be. He could have won that game. He knows it. He knows he had it on his shoulders, and basically he knows he takes the blame for throwing the pick six. So we know what we know. Now, where do we go from here? And before we go there, let's talk about everybody else. How about what's happened in Lincoln, Nebraska, South Bend, Indiana, and your favorite coach out of College Station?
Well, the Fighting Frosts, you could see that coming. The way they played their first 2 ball games, you could see that coming. Even though they get that win in the second game, they were terrible in the first half of that game. They should have beaten Northwestern, and that's not a good Northwestern team, and they lost to them. There's no excuse whatsoever to lose to a Sun Belt team if you're the University of Nebraska based on their heritage. I'm saying based on their heritage, not based on the reality of personnel versus personnel, etc. Should not happen. Nebraska should always have superior personnel, but I mean, hats off to our good buddy, the son of Kim Helton, who resurfaced at Georgia Southern, and I thought has done a marvelous job. They love him. My gosh.
They really love him today. He really loves him today, I tell you.
Well, he has endeared himself to that Statesboro community. Mm-hmm. They think he's just absolutely terrific there. They didn't like him at Southern Cal. They didn't like him from the day he was hired. And they were relentless in that they didn't like him there. I hate to say they ran a guy out of town, but they really did. He didn't have the support he needed there. And goodness, we could go in. That's another story altogether. He did a terrific coaching job. He beat Scott Frost. And Scott Frost, 5 wins, 22 losses in games lost by 8 or fewer points. 5-24 if you add 1 point to it. Had 2 9-point losses there. But in games at 1 possession, could have won the ball game, 5-22.
And now
you don't
people
survive that.
Yeah, people are asking who gets the job. Pete Thamel, who I respect a lot, is now on ESPN. Has always been good. Worked there at times ESPN. He put some names out for Nebraska today, and here are the names: Matt Campbell, Mark Stoops, Dave Aranda, Bill O'Brien, Lance Leopold, Jim Leonard, P.J. Fleck, Chris Kleeman, Dave Doran, Sam Pittman, Alex Grinch, Matt Ince, Brett Mielma, and Jamie Chavel, and Troy Calhoun. Any of those strike a bell for you?
Well, I think the best, reality, the best coach they could get is
Urban Meyer.
Probably. Well, yeah, Urban's not going to take that job. Nobody, whoever takes that job has to be somebody that comes in there and gets Nebraska back to what they do, which is run the football. That's their heritage. They run off 2 coaches that did run the ball and won quite well. Frank Solich and Bo Pelini, between the 2 of them, 125 wins in 13 seasons. That's almost 10 a year. And they ran them both off. And why? Well, they ran them both off because they didn't win like Dr. Tom did. But here's the thing people forget.
Nobody did, by the way, just so you know.
But buddy, between the loss to Miami in '83 and the national and all of a sudden he has that great 4-year run there at the end, all he was doing was going 9-3. What was he doing after he took over Bob Devaney? He was getting dominated by Barry Switzer, and what was he doing? He was going 9-3. What did Frank Solich do? 9-3. What did Bo Pelini do? 9-3. And Bo Pelini, by the way, was 37-15 in the Big Ten. Pretty good record. Yeah. 39-17, excuse me. Yeah. 39-17 in the Big Ten. But they ran him off. Now, here's the guy. If you want to know who I would go for if I'm them, I'd go to Army, I'd go to Air Force, and I'd get one of those 2 guys and say, come here, run the option, because there's still option quarterbacks that are out there. Get out there and do what they did before. Get you a bunch of big linemen who are big and strong, run that option, keep the defense off the field, get you enough defensive good players that you don't have to play from behind a lot, that they don't have to be on the field a lot.
They better get themselves a mathematician. If you look at somebody wrote today on Twitter, it said $1.5 million is what Texas A&M paid Appalachian State to play for them. They lost. 1.42 is what Nebraska paid Georgia Southern to play. They lost. 1.25 what Notre Dame paid Marshall to play. And then, of course, there's the $8 million they wasted by not waiting a couple of weeks to fire Scott Frost.
Well, it's like my grandmother said, buddy. Some people have more money than they got brains. Mm-hmm. And, Ivy Van Sickle was right about that. There are guys out there that have more money than they've got brains. Mm. Notre Dame, there is no, you talk about there are more excuses for Nebraska and for Texas A&M than there are for Notre Dame to lose to Marshall. The Aggies haven't won a national championship since the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration. Yeah. Nebraska hasn't won one since 1997. Okay, Notre Dame is supposed to win them every single year. That's what their fan base expects. And if you don't win them every single year, they don't like you. They didn't like Brian Kelly because he didn't win one every year.
Yeah.
Won a lot of ball games. They didn't run him out of town, but he went down to LSU, and guess what? At LSU, you know what's going to happen if he doesn't win a national championship? They're going to run his ass out of town.
Yeah. By the way, just a little note here. This is the one you always like to bring up. I'll bring it up this time. At Texas A&M, Kevin Sumlin's first 50 games, he was 36-14. You know what Jimbo's record is after 50 games?
Probably 35-15.
You got it, 35-15 exactly. So
yeah. Jimbo is going to. They're not going to fire Marcus Freeman on his first year, 3 games into his coaching career.
Even though he lost them all.
Even though he lost, they've already fired Scott Frost, but Jimbo is the one that should be feeling the heat. I mean, he's got a lot of wins he's got to come up with. They just gave him a big extension. They got this great recruiting class. They're not going to fire him.
Wait. They're the greatest recruiting class of all time in college football.
Oh, heavens. Generational. Oh, yeah. But here's the thing that you got to look at with Jimbo. They're not going to fire Jimbo this year. Not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But next year with that generational recruiting class coming in, if they're not in the SEC championship game or down to white knuckles with Alabama for the right to play in the SEC championship game, I'll tell you what, the only ones that got more money than the Aggies are the Longhorns. And those Aggie boosters who've got all that oil money sitting around collecting dust in some bank somewhere, all those Aggie boosters are going to come dust off some cash and say, well, by golly, Mr. President of our university, we got to get us a boy in here who can win some ball games. That's what they're going to say.
If you're following NFL at all tonight, which some of you are, Seahawks lead 17-13 at halftime in Seattle. And the guy playing for Seattle, his last start was 8 years ago. You know who it was?
The quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks?
Yes.
That's Geno Smith.
You got it, pal. Geno Smith. He went 17 for 18 in the first half tonight against the Broncos.
Former first-round draft pick of the New York Jets.
Yep.
How many quarterbacks? They must hold the all-time record for former first-round draft pick quarterbacks.
They got a bunch for sure. Yeah.
They've been looking for the next Joe Namath for let's see, 68 they won the Super Bowl in 68. So 68 was what 54 years ago, something like that.
Whatever you say. You're good on math. I'm not.
Yeah, they've been looking for the next Joe Namath for 54 years.
Yeah.
By
the way, France, can you guess the record of Mark Stoops year by year, 1, 2, and 3? Just rough number of wins he had in his first 3 years. What do you think he won?
I think he won 2 ball games his first year.
2 and 10. That's right. Year 2.
I think he won 4 that year.
5. Year 3.
I think he went back one. He lost
5. He actually won 5. Yeah, so he won in 3 years. He won 12 games, and Kentucky was smart enough. He was 12-24 after his first 2 years, and now he's out there kicking Florida's butt. Congratulations for Kentucky to having the ability to hang on, give somebody a chance. You wonder how many guys might have made it had they given the chance. By the way, I'm not talking about Scott Frost. He didn't deserve it. He should have been gone. So,
here's the thing that I've heard people say was that if you look at the improvement Florida made offensively in Will Muschamp's last year, had they given Will Muschamp one more year, things might have changed because he had an NFL defense. Old Yeller had an NFL defense the next year, and that would have been the year Will Greer would have been his quarterback. Now, would Will have gotten into trouble if Muschamp was still there as he was? Because once old Yeller got there, things got a little slack there. So, we can always go woulda, coulda, shoulda, but I can also tell you this much. Georgia's defense, people are saying Georgia's defense, Matt Hayes, for one, is saying Georgia's defense is as good or better than it was last year. And if that's the case, I'd have to say it's probably because of the guy who's the defensive coordinator, and that's former UF head coach Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp's a hell of a football
No doubt, coaching defense. I'm going to just give you this, and I'm going to ask you to take us out with your final word. We'll remind folks that our friends at Renstar Medical Research are always looking for ways to make our life better here. They're doing research all the time. You can take part in some of their clinical studies. They have a lot of them, everything from psoriasis to dementia, what have you. And if you want to call them, the telephone number is 352-629-5800 to find out. Now, they had one on psoriasis recently. Had to be between the ages of 18 and 75, and you have to have plaque-type psoriasis. Get to see a dermatologist free, access to medical special medicine, trial medication, and you get compensation for your time in trial. The folks at Renstar Medical Research. Also go to renstar.net and check out what they've got, and you can be a part of this if you choose to. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Now this final word, the rest of the story from Franz Beard.
Folks, a lot of people were upset with Anthony Richardson, and some of the stuff that went on our pages was totally uncalled for. Somebody went so far as to say, what's he trying to do? Throwing the ball game, etc. like that. And somebody else made a comment that the whole team was throwing the ball game. That's uncalled for. Florida didn't win the ball game. Florida made too many mistakes to win the ball game. But I like what Billy said today. He said, I like the fight in this team. I like the loyalty in this team. I like what Justin Shorter said today, that the culture of the team has changed completely. And I think Billy Napier has brought in the right culture. I think that the Gators are going to still have a good season. I still think 8 or 9 wins is possible, maybe even probable. Going to be tough, though, to do it, but it's still early in the season. There's 10 games to go in the regular season, and a lot of things could happen. Anthony Richardson could catch fire. He could play 10 games in a row like he did against Utah. But we've got to get accustomed to the fact that this is a work in progress. Billy said so from the beginning. That part hasn't changed. They are a work in progress. They've got to overcome some problems. They have some deficiencies, holes in the roster, we might want to call them, from previous failures in recruiting that he's trying to address. All those things, at some point in time, we'll look back on them and say, holy cow, look what he's done. But in the meantime, everybody's faced with the fact that they want to win now. And they, as much as I believe the Gators are going to win 9 ball games this year, I think that's possible. It's also possible that they struggle and win 7 or 8. We've got a couple injuries now. Ventrell Miller got hurt the other night. Michael Tarquin got hurt the other night. If Anthony Richardson gets hurt, we've got some issues. And that's always been the problem this year, is the depth is an issue. The depth showed in the second half the other night. They had depth. Florida did not have depth. That's going to change. That will change. This coach is going to win ball games. This coach is here for the duration, and you don't have to. I don't believe you've got to worry that he's going to be on my extinct species list or my on life support list anytime in the next few years when I do my countdown to firing day. I think he's here for the duration. I think he's going to win championships here, and I don't think you got to worry. But I know this, in the meantime, while we're waiting on there, there is no excuse for saying the disparaging remarks about a kid that got out there and busted his ass, whether we like the outcome of what he did or not. That's no excuse. He's 20 years old. He's a kid. Give me a break. You know, you might want to say that to an adult, but this is a 20-year-old kid.
Yeah, the one I saw was most disgusting. Yeah, I'm not going to tell fans what to say. We'll have a little class. We won't tolerate it on this program. You can be critical, it's fine, but just on the comment I didn't like was some woman, I don't know her name, she was on one of our Facebook pages, because we have multiple pages now. We have 10,000 followers now, friends, on our Buddy Martin Show page. And someone, and by the way, congratulations to Brendan Martin for making that happen. And one woman said, Anthony, if you stop all your strutting and focus more on your practice, you'd be a better quarterback. What stupid comment that was. And
that's as insanely stupid as some of the other things because you talk to any kid on that team and they will tell you nobody on that team works harder than Anthony Richardson. And I can tell you what, he could have ducked out the other night, and nobody would have blamed him.
Yeah.
He walked in there, he stood up there, and the first thing he said is, "I lost the ball game." He didn't lose the ball game. He contributed to the loss. Yes, he did. He didn't lose it. You know, as I pointed out, buddy, we gave him 23 points. Now, we make some plays. We had 3 drop passes. We had 6 overthrows of open receivers. We also had to settle for a couple of field goals when we had an offensive line that maybe had a couple whiffs in there. Not from Osiris Torrance, I got to tell you.
No, he didn't. And Michael Tarkin got hurt, so.
Michael Tarkin got hurt. Osiris Torrance does, I can tell you this much. That kid does not whiff. Now, you want to talk about offensive line problems? Talk about what's happening over there at Texas A&M, where they said they had one of the great lines there is.
Yeah.
Talk about Alabama's offensive line. Florida's offensive line is better than either one of those.
Yeah, they're the stars. They're kind of the rock stars of that team right there. Francis, I'll wrap it up and say have a good week. I hope everybody's okay at your house. Great job this weekend. Great job on the show and on, of course, on your writing for. By the way, tell them why they need to get Gator bait.
Well, you get good writing for one thing. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I mean, hey, folks, Buddy Martin's worth the price of admission. There's a reason why just about every coach that's ever been at Florida has him on speed dial. Those that are still alive that do anyway. Couple of them have croaked along the way.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why the 2 coaches who won national championships have him on speed dial.
Well, and you do a great job. You write 4 and 5 times. You turn out the volume, and it's good stuff. It's not just so. While we're patting ourselves on the back, I love what Lauren Meadows is doing with his analysis. Yeah. I love Kyle Curtis coming along strong, young man, and we'll soon have Carlton Reese writing again, who's a very good reporter and writer. And, of course, don't forget those great pictures that Chris Spears does and Brendan Martin's videos. Excellent work. Got a good crew, friends.
Yes, we do. And it's fun. Writing's fun if you got good people to work with, and we got good people to work with.
And how do you get, by the way, Gator Bait drives everything we do. And you say, how do I get to be a subscriber? People tell me, you don't tell me how. I'm going to tell you. It's very simple. Go to GatorBait, one word, media, one word, .com. Click on it. You'll have a variety of things you're playing so you can sign up for. And we appreciate your support. And thank you to all the people who are giving us stars, all the stars you contribute to the broadcast. It all helps. Brendan Martin's done a great job about to announce some of the changes. And, friends, you're the anchor man. So thank you for all the work you're doing, buddy.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Have a good night. The great fan spirit, Iron Duke. All right, folks, we'll wrap it up tonight. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hear my Rays lost 3-2. I haven't had a chance to watch it. Hope you had a good night. USF this weekend. Take that pledge out and look at it again. There's some stuff that you might want to think about. Tell your friends and neighbors. Have a great night, folks. Talk to you tomorrow night right here on The Buddy Martin Show.